Hello, my friends. Good morning. How are you? Welcome to another edition of Behind the Mic with me, Mike Avery, here in the Outdoor Magazine radio studio. How are you today? On a sunny but windy Wednesday morning. Just checking something over on one of my other feeds here to see, make sure we're good to go. And we are. Excellent. Bruce, good morning. Thanks for joining me on this edition of Behind the Mic. Appreciate you being along with us. Gene, thank you so much for putting my new tubes on. Hey, you didn't happen to find a couple of plates out there with MC numbers on them, did you? Ross, Skinny Ross, I call you now. That's your new name, Skinny Ross. How you doing, buddy? Getting ready for a big event coming up in your family's life, aren't you? All right, Craig, have a good day. Get a lot of good work done and a lot of quality work done. And we will see you tonight. Thanks again for your sponsorship of the golf outing coming up July 29th. mucc.org/golf for anybody else that wants to be involved. Ross, we got to get you involved in this thing. You're looking for a team, if I remember right. I forgot to mention this last Wednesday night. Maybe we can talk about that tonight. Lee, good morning. 3 weekends away. Tick, 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 tick. Uncle Johnny, how are you? Thank you, Johnny, for shuttling me back from Sunset at the mouth of the river up to Linwood Beach. I appreciate it. Couldn't have walked that far, so I sure appreciate that. Look forward to getting together with you and Aunt Debbie here very, very soon. In fact, I think we'll see you tomorrow night at the Twins ball game. Martin says he saw your boat Sunday up in Linwood. Looks good. Yeah, it's not in Linwood anymore. It's down in the mouth of the Saginaw River now. David, good morning. How are you? Billy, good morning to you. Kevin, always a pleasure. Mad Jack says, nice work on that first trip on the bay. Yeah, it was nice to get out there, do a shakedown cruise. Tim, good morning. Here's a guy I have to say thank you very much. Jason, did you get a chance to try that bourbon yet? It's really good. Jason Graham, Captain Jason Graham of Send It Charters and Linwood Beach Marina. I have several people to thank. Apex Marine for allowing me to run a boat for another year and for putting the new tubes on. Gene at Apex for putting those tubes on. Mr. Angler Quest, Brad Dupuis for all of his help and support. And of course, the folks at Linwood Beach Marina, in particular, Captain Jason Graham. I took that a boat up to Jason on last Friday, and said I need to get it on the water. He said, "Don't worry, we'll take care of you." It was a hot, miserable day, just as Saturday and Sunday were. Jason was busy running trips and helping everybody else out there, and he took time out from his schedule to just make sure my boat was good to go. I think they had to replace a battery. Jason, Captain, really, I appreciate it very, very much. Thank you again. Richard, good morning. How are you? Cliff, always a pleasure. I wondered if anybody was going to talk about the interview with Uncle Ted last week. Lee said, great interview with Uncle Ted. It was fun to talk to him. I haven't talked to him for a while. I understand it's nice to have new tubes, but I understand that my old tubes actually weren't leaking at all, but it gives me a level of confidence to have the new tubes. Again, did you find an aluminum plate out there with some MC numbers on them? Yeah, I wouldn't want to be on the bay today. Corey was salmon fishing on Lake Michigan Friday, Saturday, casting for walleye on the bay Monday. I'm doing great. Doing real good. Yeah, the AQ is back in the water. And we actually did a shakedown trip yesterday with my son James, got a few fish, made a pass through the skinny water. There was nothing going there, so we went out deeper. We went out to a spot northeast of my skinny water in 10 feet of water, and we got some fish out there. All right, Gene, appreciate that. Josh Mapes, how are you this morning, buddy? Thanks for joining me on this edition of Behind the Mic. So this is Memorial Weekend coming up. Can you believe it? The unofficial kickoff of the summer season. How did it get to be Memorial Weekend already? What are your plans? What are you going to do? There's my list right here. Stolen Willow. Happy Wednesday to you, my friends. Jen and Tim. Let's not forget about the real reason for Memorial Weekend too, right? It's not for barbecues or fishing or ball games or whatever, laying at the beach or whatever. The real reason for Memorial Weekend is to honor those in the military who have given their lives in the course of service. Now, this is often overlooked on Memorial Weekend, right? I have had a wonderful life and done most of the things that I ever could have dreamed of. The one thing I didn't do, and one of the true regrets of my life is that I never served in the military. When I was of the age to sign up, it was right after Vietnam. Not that this is an excuse, but this was part of the thinking that I didn't do it because of the culture in the country at the time. And I regret it. I truly regret that I never served. If I could go back and change one thing in my life, it would be to sign up. So I have much respect for those who did serve, and especially those who went to some godforsaken place, some jungle or some desert, and didn't come home. That's the reason for Memorial Weekend. You know, it's been morphed into something about remembering all of those who have gone before us. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. But the real reason is those who signed up and didn't come home. I got to do a radio conversation yesterday with a broadcasting icon, a legend. His name is Art Lewis. And Art, it wouldn't be a Wednesday night behind the mic if you didn't come in and say hi. And I just got word that Art is going to join us in West Branch July 29th for the golf outing, right, Art? Yay. I was hoping that was the case.
How many strokes you giving me?
Listen, you're a scratch golfer, so I'm not giving you any.
Scratch my head.
I'll be scratching my rear end is what I'm going to be scratching. But it's going to be fun, Art.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
A lot
Good
of fun.
cause too.
And thanks for having us on the show yesterday to promote it. I appreciate it.
It was good.
Yeah.
It was good.
Always a pleasure. Art Lewis from WSGW AM and FM, icon and a really, really good guy. Really good guy. Thank you, Art. I appreciate that. Let me go back to some comments here. Brent says, congrats on getting the boat in the water. Well, I didn't have anything to do with it, but it's a real pleasure to be out there. Ed checking in from Port Clinton, Ohio, where the fishing is good, I suspect. Robert checking in from the Eastern UP. Corey says, thank you for that. Ross, amen. Brent says, same here. Ross says, way too often overlooked. I'll be visiting Fallen Brothers this weekend, leaving my coins, and then up to the UP to see Johnny Bowler. Sounds like a good weekend, Ross. Yeah. Ed says he has a friend who signed up in the reserves in his 40s. He's a judge and a JAG attorney for the reserves. Very cool. Brent said it was a good segment with Uncle Ted. John says he enjoyed the Ted interview. Also like the Fred Bitter interview you did years back. Jerry, how are things in the Adirondacks? Mark Pananzak, Captain Mark Pananzak. I went by your place yesterday. Well, your place of operation. As I was visiting Captain Jason Graham and all the folks at Linwood Beach to get the Angler Quest in the water. I'm ready to rock. I made a shakedown trip yesterday, got some fish. All is good, and I couldn't be happier. Another Mark, good morning. How are you? Checking in over on YouTube. I had a chance yesterday, too, to try a new bait, something I've never run before. The Precise Walleye Crank. I can never remember whether it's a Bill Norman bait or a Bill Lewis bait, but it was designed by the Romaneks, Mark and Jake Romanek. And it's got the same dive curve roughly as a Flicker minnow, a number 7 Flicker minnow. But the thing that I really like about them is that they got big solid hooks on them. You know, the hooks on the Flicker minnows and Flicker shads are just for crap. These are good hooks. Robert, you can still serve my Air Your Show on military radio. Morning, Cap. Yeah, Doug Ward. I am so glad to be back on the water. It felt really good, and yesterday was a great day to be out there. Captain Mark says, congrats on you. It feels good. Scott says, may see a form of draft again if we continue not to get folks to sign up in the military. They're not going to be looking for a 65-year-old guy. Jerry says, watching, amazing, Mike. Things are amazing this morning. Jim, my morning is doing great. You as well, John. Ross said, when are we going fishing? Ross, when? Let's set it up. My calendar is starting to fill up now. I got a lot of those charity trips. I don't know how this year. I said I'm going to cut back, right? Because I had almost too many to handle last year. Well, I did. I couldn't get them all in. It looks the same for this year. I'm a sucker for a good story. If somebody comes to me with a story about a charity, it seems like I'm a sucker for it. Not that that's a bad thing to do, but I got to start cutting back. Good morning, Mike. Thank you. Gene says he's looking forward to his trip with you, Captain Doug. Doug, Gene is the guy who was underneath my boat over at the Apex plant putting the new tubes on. So I have a big thank you to him, as well as Captain Jason Graham and everybody at Apex and Mr. Angler Quest himself and everybody at Linwood Beach. Sherry says it's nice in Poseyville, but it's windy. I would not want to be on the bay this morning. I picked, not that I picked it. My window of opportunity to get the boat in the water, it was already in the water, to run the boat across from Linwood Beach Marina, linwoodbeachmarina.com, over to the mouth of the river where I keep my boat. Now, people say, and this is a very valid question, Avery, why don't you just keep your boat at Linwood Beach Marina? I have kept a boat at Linwood Beach Marina in the past, and it is a beautiful facility. I love it. I originally went down to the mouth of the river when I first started working with Angler Quest, and there were very few Angler Quests out there. And there were already some Angler Quests at Linwood Beach, and we wanted to give, now this is in the early days, we wanted to give as much exposure to that boat as possible. So I wanted to go down the river mouth and show the boat off down there. So that's where I've stayed. I like that part of the bay. I fished the skinny water right there. In fact, I don't think I fished west of the channel maybe one time last summer. So it's convenient for me. But believe me, I love Linwood Beach Marina, and it's right there. You come out of Linwood Beach Marina and boom, you're into the fish. Plus beautiful facilities, great people. I can't say enough about Linwood Beach Marina. LinwoodBeachMarina.com, by the way. Turkey season is starting to wrap up, but you still have time. Also, don't forget to apply for your Michigan Bear and Elk application. You still have time for that. Detroit River. Bottom bouncing with live bait works well. All right, Ross, have a good day, Skinny. Patrick, good morning. How are you? Oh, let me ask you guys, Jason Graham and Mark Panavik and Doug Ward. Yesterday when I was out there, the surface temp was 70 degrees. Now, it feels like it's too early to have it 70 degrees, but my schedule is screwed up. I feel like it's still early May. I don't feel in my brain like it's late May. But my point is, last year, the fishing was so good on the inner bay all year long, I think, because of all those northeast winds that blew so much that we cursed at the time, but they kept the cold water in the inner bay and the fish stayed. Do you think, captains, that hitting 70 right now is a concern that our water temp might just get too high too early and we will lose all of those fish in the inner bay? Or am I worrying about nothing? It's nothing to worry about. There's nothing we can do about it. But what do you think? Could that be the case? Charles, good morning. Tim, good morning. Randy, I'm sorry, Randy. We had friends out of Linwood the other day, and the storm came up, and they were glad they were on their Angler Quest. Angler Quest is a great boat. I really look forward to seeing the new version of Angler Quest that Mr. Angler Quest Brad Dupuis is working on. I've been privy to be involved in the conversations from day one. I will continue to promote the new version of Angler Quest, whatever it's called, when appropriate. And Brad is working on a prototype right now. In fact, he told me, and he said on the radio show and the podcast, that you will see a prototype version of that boat at Linwood Beach in the next few weeks. And from a distance, you might not even know that it's a different boat. Where we go? Scott says 3-ounce bottom bouncers in Lance's boat with his crawler program. He's killing it. Jim says all it takes is a few good storms from the northeast. It'll cool the waters off fast. Skeeter with a 300 got you off there fast too, huh? Charles says Uncle Ted wasn't too bad on last week's show. Yeah, I was worried about that because you never know what you're going to get. But he's 75 years old now, so he's mellowed out a little bit. I enjoyed the conversation. Tyler agrees with me. He says water temps seem a couple of weeks ahead of schedule. Looks like we might have some north and northeast winds coming in this weekend, might push the cooler waters in. Good morning, Michael. Hey, Steve, how'd you do fishing yesterday? You know, I had forgotten. I have to apologize. I had forgotten about our conversations with you moving into Sunset. And you're right there next to me. So we're going to have a good summer together. How did you do? I like fishing out of Sunset because where I fish is very close, and it's a great facility. Very nice. Good morning, Michael. Ace, how you doing, buddy? How are you, my friend? Ken says, Scott Hand, he has some bottom bouncers you can have. I got some bottom bouncers you can have too, Scott Hand. Robert, good morning. How are you? June 8th, Northwest Ontario Bear Hunt. I want to go back to my conversation with Ted Nugent last week. I haven't had any contact or seen Ted in a long time, but there was a time years ago when we used to work together very closely. In fact, I almost left my job at TV5 in Saginaw to go work with Uncle Ted. I'm glad I didn't. It worked out well for him. Worked out obviously well for him, and it worked out good for me as well. It just wouldn't have been a good move. But we had a lot of good times. I was actually on tour with him in Florida when he was with Damn Yankees. Spent some time hunting with him, spent some time fishing with him. Bow fishing. And it was just a lot of fun. Charlie, how are you? Charlie, I'm trying to do something in here. Can you keep it quiet? Oh, no podcast today. I know it's on the schedule, but it's not today. It's next week.
All right.
Bob Ransom of Primal wants to do it, but he's not available till next week.
We will adjust.
Nothing wrong with that, Steve. Let's stay in touch this summer and we can help guide each other to the fish, eh? Gene says you're going to have to ask Brad to build your next helm for your next boat. What do you get from him? Well, I don't know what's going to happen yet, but Gene, I would love to have you work on any boat that I have. That's for sure. Tim, you got to go back and listen to hour number. When was Ted on? He was on the second hour number 2. Doug, this is very interesting. I was on the bay the other night casting in 40 feet of water. I'm going to get rid of your comment because you can't see my pretty face. 40 feet of water. Surface temp was 60, but the fish were cold to the touch. We've had a bunch of northeast winds lately to help keep it cool out here. If there's weeds shallow, there will be bait. If there's bait, there will be Walters. Time will tell, but I think we should be okay. Came to year end last year in 4 feet to your little weeds, and they were still there with 80 degrees surface temp. I'll take those 2 trips this week, over 50 pullbacks, all on crawlers. You had me until you got to crawlers, Doug. You had me until you mentioned crawlers. Jay, good morning. How are you? Jay will be with us at the golf outing coming up. He's still on the river guarding sturgeon, pretty much done for the year. Excellent. Tomorrow, this is excellent. Thank you. We, as Sturgeon for Tomorrow, will be sending in a silver sponsorship today, as well as playing golf in your outing. That is wonderful. Thank you, Jay. A silver sponsorship for the golf outing. By the way, if you want to get involved in the outing, either playing or as a sponsor or both, go to mucc.org/golf, mucc.org/golf. Thank you. Yep, got the walleye going. 14-inch brookie in the Fox. Excellent. Still got time to tip over a longbeard. Nice steelhead in the rifle. Excellent. Let me send a quick text here to Steve Wyndham to let him know about that. Silver sponsor. Silver sponsors him. Excellent. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate that. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. How much time, Charlie?
1 minute.
1 minute.
1 minute, 15 seconds.
Well, Oh, let me tell you who's coming up on the show this week. First, John Cleveland of the Eppinger Company. They make the Daredevil lures, and they're based right here in Michigan. Then Ed Roy from the Michigan Wildlife Council. In our second hour, it's the Michigan spearfishing guy, John Dirtka. Then Ron St. Louis of Northern Wilderness Bear Outfitters talking about bear hunting. If you don't get your Michigan bear tag, you can still go hunting in Ontario. Plus, in our third hour, retired Coastie Joe Marion talking about boating safety. Plus, we wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner, and lots more. That's who's coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show on 33 stations across the great state of Michigan. And in about 15 seconds, I'm going to change my focus, 30 seconds, from this, right, this direct interaction with you to the radio show. So I will still be talking, and it'll look like I'm talking with you, and I will be, but I'm talking with a radio audience. So I will not be able. Doug, I don't. And you know, with me, this whole crawler thing is just a big joke, right? It's just something to bust people's chops about.
5, 4,
I know they catch fish
3,
right there.
2, 1. Blast off.
Blast off. All right, my friends, have a great day. If you want to stick around while I record the first segment of the show, feel free. I will be back tonight at 7 o'clock for another edition of Wednesday Night Live. I hope you can join me then. I got you, Doug. I figured that. Again, mucc.org/golf to play and or sponsor the first annual Mike Avery Outdoors charity golf outing to benefit MUCC's youth camp. All right, my friends, have a great day. Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And so glad to have you along with us on this Memorial Day weekend. How did it get to be Memorial Day already? You know, time does fly, right? But I just, it feels like it should be Easter still, not Memorial Weekend, the unofficial kickoff of the summer season. Now, the weather forecast, as I'm looking at it right now, looks like it's going to be a little bit iffy, but hey, we got to take advantage of every opportunity. I have always said never to cancel any type of an outdoor plan based on a weather forecast, at least not a few days out. Right now, if you wake up in the morning and the wind is blowing 40 miles an hour from the northeast, yeah, okay, you can cancel your trip on Saginaw Bay, but you know, don't let a weather forecast change your plans. Going back to Memorial Weekend here, for a lot of people these days, Memorial Day and Memorial Weekend have become an excuse to, or not an excuse, a reason to have a party, a get-together, a backyard barbecue, to go fishing, camping, a little day trip, whatever. And those are all wonderful things to do. But let's keep in mind on this Memorial Weekend the real reason for this holiday. And that is to honor those who have given their lives in the course of defending our country in the military. That's the real reason for Memorial Day. Now, it has morphed and changed and developed into just honoring all of those who have passed, and that's an honorable thing to do as well. But specifically, it is designed to honor those who made, and it's a cliche, but it's a good term, the ultimate sacrifice. One of the very few true regrets in my life is that I never served. If I could go back and change one thing in my life as a young man, I would have signed up. When it was time for me at that age to sign up and make that commitment and do my part, it was right after Vietnam. Now, this is not an excuse, but it's part of the mindset of the world at that time. So I didn't. And I regret that. I really, really do. So I have the utmost respect for those who did sign up. And it only seems appropriate that we should honor those who did sign up. They left their home here in Michigan or wherever. They left their family, they left their friends, and they went to some godforsaken place, some jungle, some desert. And some of them didn't come home. I can't imagine what the families of those people have gone through over the years and going through today. So much respect. Thank you for serving. The families, thank you for the years that you've had to deal with the loss. And let's just keep that in mind on this Memorial weekend, right? I mentioned fishing on Memorial weekend. I had a chance to get out fishing. The Angler Quest is on the water. I had new tubes were put on the Angler Quest. Not because there was anything wrong with the old ones, but there is a newer tube design. And everybody just wanted to have the newest design on my boat. And I appreciate that. So thank you, folks at Apex Marine, for swapping out those tubes. Thank you, Mr. Angler Quest himself, Brad Dupuis, for facilitating this all. Thank you to the folks at Linwood Beach Marina for helping me get ready for the water, specifically Captain Jason Graham of Send It Charters and Linwood Beach Marina. Thank you. I appreciate the fact that you folks were willing to work with me so I could get on the water. And I did get on the water. In fact, the very first day, earlier here last week, the weather was perfect. I ran the boat over from Linwood Beach over to my slip at the mouth of the river. My son James came to meet me, and we did a little shakedown cruise. I always like to do that first trip of the year, without a crew, a crew of people who have bid on a charity to fish with me, and hopefully somebody who's knowledgeable and comfortable and competent out there in the water. And my son James, you couldn't be more competent than he is on the water. So we went out and made a couple passes through my beloved Skinny Water. Nothing in there. So we went out further offshore, 5 miles offshore, and we found some fish. And we had a really, really good day. A lot of fun. A lot of fun to be back on the water. A lot of fun to be catching fish. A lot of fun to be out there with my son James. We talked about the good times we've had on Saginaw Bay. We talked about the fishery when he was a kid growing up. And how it's evolved and what it's developed into. It was just so much fun. Interesting, though, that the surface temp when I was out there a few days ago was 70 degrees already. Now, it seems to me a little early to be that warm. And I thought, is this something to be, I don't want to say concerned about, but something to be aware of? Because last year, the fishing on Saginaw Bay was so good, so late into the year. And I feel like all those big northeast winds that we had throughout the season last year that we were cursing at the time, I feel like those winds help keep some cooler water on the in the inner bay and keep the fish in there. So I'm hoping the water temp doesn't get too high too fast and maybe a lot of our fish leave. But there's a lot of fish out there. I had my first experience using the new Precise Walleye crank, the PWC, that was designed and tested by the Romanaks, Mark and Jake Romanak. Great action on the bait, great colors, but what I really like is it's got good, solid hooks. On Saginaw Bay right now, a lot of people are running, myself included, flicker minnows and maybe some flicker shads, but the hooks on those things are junk. Word of advice, if you get a flicker minnow, if you go buy a flicker minnow, buy some extra hooks and put them on. Buy some new hooks and put them on. But I really like that PWC. That's a nice bait. I'll be using that and getting more. You can count on that. Turkey season here in Michigan wrapping up. You still have time to get your bird, but don't drag your feet and take your Thermacell or your Michigan Moon with you. Also, don't forget to apply for your Michigan Bear or Elk tag. You have till the end of the month to do that. Every year I hear from people said, "Oh man, I forgot." Well, here's your reminder. Go online, use the app, or go to a license agent and apply for your Michigan Bear or Elk application. If you don't get a tag, oh well, at least you applied, right? If you don't apply, you know you're not going to get a tag. And you know what? You're not going to get an elk tag anyway, but you've got to apply because somebody will get an elk tag. The golf outing, the first annual Mike Avery Outdoors charity golf outing. Monday, July 29th at the West Branch Country Club. This is an outing to raise funds for MUCC's youth camp. If I'm going to be involved in a golf outing, we're going to raise some money, and it's going to be for an outdoor related cause. And I can't think of a better cause than to get young people involved in the outdoors through MUCC's youth camp. We still have room for players, and we have almost unlimited room for sponsors. We'll find a way to get you involved. Believe me. Go to the website, mucc.org/golf. That's mucc.org/golf to sign up to play and or sponsor the event. It's going to be a really good time, and I'm looking forward to it. mucc.org/golf, Monday, July 29th at the West Branch Country Club. Speaking of MUCC, this week coming up here, MUCC Executive Director Amy Trotter joins me on Wednesday Night Live. She's always a very popular guest, always a wealth of information, and I would encourage you to check that out. Promo codes. Mike20. If you go to michiganbrand.net, michiganbrand.net, use the promo code Mike20, 20% off on your entire order. If you want to get a Rapid River knife like the one I have in my pocket right now. Avery 10 at the website rapidriverknifeworks.us or in the store on US 2 just east of Rapid River. Coming up this week on Outdoor Magazine, after the break, John Cleveland of Michigan-based Eppinger Lures. They make the Daredevil lure. They've been around forever. Then Ed Roy from the Michigan Wildlife Council. In our second hour, it's that spearfishing guy, John Dirtka. Then Ron St. Louis, a bear guide from Ontario. If you don't get your Michigan bear tag, you can still go bear hunting. Just go north of the border. Go to Ontario. And in hour number 3, since this is going to be a huge boating weekend, some boating safe tips with Joe Marion, retired Coast Guardsman. And then we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire, Dixie Dave Miner. All that and more coming up this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I would love to hear from you. All right, my friends, it looks like the feed froze, so I'm going to end it. Have a good day. See you tonight, 7 o'clock for another edition of Wednesday Night Live.